Welcome to the Fatherhood Fitness Finance Podcast, your training resource for being a happy, healthy, and wealthy dad.
Hey everyone, this is Seth. Today we have Aaron Hendon on the show. He's a father of an 11-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. He's the managing partner at a real estate firm in Seattle. He's living on an island right now, which is pretty cool. He opened and sold a bagel shop that was doing $1 million in revenue annually, which to me seems like a ton for a bagel shop. He's also the author of a book called Shortchanged by Shortcuts, 44 Surprising Ways People Rip Themselves Off When Buying or Selling Their Home. And spoiler alert, I have to fess up in the episode to Aaron that I actually do one of the main mistakes that we talk about. So I had to own up to that, and that was just about 3 years ago. So I won't make that mistake again anyway. In terms of parenting, I want to pick his brain a little bit about what he's doing with internet and phone usage with his kids to make sure they don't become, phone zombies. And then talk about his business a little bit, why he started one versus just working somewhere else. And then talk about some of these mistakes we make in real estate. Well, let's go ahead and talk to Aaron. Hey, Aaron, thanks for being on the show today.
My pleasure, Seth. Nice to talk to you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. And so we'll get into real estate and everything that you're doing now a little later, but I was going to ask you about your kids. I think you have a 10 and a 14. Is that right?
11 and 14, yeah.
11
Close
and
enough.
14. Yep.
He's short, so yeah, it's hard to tell.
So you're going into the teenager phase. Have you noticed any kind of changes? My kids are young. Everyone's under 4, and so I'm not in that realm yet. So what's it like?
Yeah. It's fantastic. The truth is every age winds up being the best age, I remember when they went from infant to crawling to walking to speaking to, all that, every stage. And you're like, oh my God, this is even better than the last. This is like, the whole thing is like some big freaking mystery to me, like the whole, how it works out, just like at one moment you understand how come animals eat their young, and the next moment you're like, they wink at you or something, and you're like, oh yeah, that's it. I love this thing. This thing is a great thing. We're going to keep this one, So it's funny. It's funny how it plays out. So it's great having a teen. The girl's a teenager, and the boy is 11, and it's interesting for sure.
How about phones and texting? Is that something you're having to deal with?
Totally.
Is driving you crazy?
No, well,
what's that like?
It makes my wife a little crazier than it makes me, but I just everything makes my wife a little crazier than me, about them. So,
yeah.
But in general, the thing about texting, there's a couple of things that are interesting about it. One is that neither of my kids, my daughter for sure, will just not get on the phone. She just will not call somebody. She won't. She hates it and won't do it, and snaps kids and texts people, and but that's how she communicates, and I think that's a generational thing. She's 14 and she's had a phone for 2 years, or maybe a year and a half, and no, she doesn't actually have a phone. She has a phone, but she doesn't have service. She just has Wi-Fi.
Gotcha. Which
doesn't matter to her because she won't call anyone anyway, and I can manage it more tightly if she has Wi-Fi. And at some point, she's going to wind up with phone service. But they're on their devices all the time. We have Xfinity, so I can shut off the Wi-Fi, whenever I want. Yeah, I don't know how, and we made a rule. So the rule in our house is no internet during the week, and Saturday, after school, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday till Sunday night sometime, it's free game. Do whatever you want. That's a little bit much for my wife, but I can deal with it. And for me, it's like Saturday morning cartoons were my thing as a kid. Mm-hmm. I'm 54, and Saturday morning was up early, big bowl of cereal in front of the TV, cartoons all day, whatever. I would just do, as much as I could, and that's how I have it. It's their internet. So
it sounds like she got her phone when she was 12, and that's kind of late nowadays, right? I think I don't know, but I think I've seen like my wife when she was an elementary teacher said kids in elementary school sometimes had phones.
Yeah, certainly other kids got it sooner.
Yeah. Well,
but
good for you.
whatever. Yeah, whatever. It wasn't going that way here. That's plenty of time on the device. And yeah, so my son's 11 and he doesn't have one, and he's, you know, I don't think she got it until she was 13, so I think it's a year and a half because her birthday's in June. So I think it's a year and a half. I think he's a year and a half out from getting one.
Yeah. Yeah, a coworker and I were debating whether her, I think it was 7-year-old, should get an iPhone.
No. No.
Right, exactly.
No. 7 years
And,
old, no.
You need to hear the reason why. The justification was all the 7-year-old's friends had it, and so the child felt left out. And it's like, wow, let's just pile on the bad decisions here.
Yeah, right. That's it. Keeping up with the 7-year-olds. No pass. No, not doing it. Yeah, we got it. So, you know, but I also live in a very rural, sort of hippie enclave of life here. So, you know, I mean, it's in Seattle, so there's a lot of tech, but I live on an island, and it's and you can get away with being an iconoclast here. You can get away with doing your own thing. And, you know,
I'm very interested in the island thing there. So I live in Georgia now, but was in Oregon, so I'm familiar kind of with the area up there. And so, do you ever get cut off or anything? That's kind of what my first came to mind, if there's like inclement weather or anything like that.
No, you know, it's way more frequent in terms of being cut off or something like that. Way more frequent is an issue of the ferry workers not showing up for their job, so they have to cancel a ferry, or the ferries themselves are older and they'll break, and then they'll have to reorganize it, because in Washington, the ferries are part of the highway system. You know, your car tabs pay for the ferries as much as they pay for the roads. It's considered roadway. And so, you know, it's an issue of infrastructure in this country. You know, there's a very low investment in infrastructure, and the ferries are older, so they break, and then they have to get reorganized, and so you wind up with less boats, and you get stuck and things like that. But it's not a stopper.
What about your kids going to school and the ferry and stuff? Is the school off the island, I guess?
No. School's on the island. Yeah, it's a 400. You know, she's got about 100 people in her class for the high school. There's all grades. It goes from kindergarten, preschool, all the way up to high school on the island. In fact, probably 200 kids from Seattle take the ferry to the island to go to school, because the island school is better than the neighborhood school in the area where in the area close to the boat. The island school is better, so they just get on the boat. There's 2 buses, I think, something like that, worth of kids.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, you know, I was on your Facebook page, and I saw formerly at or founded or a lot of different tags for you in your history. So I noticed, you know, entrepreneur was listed somewhere. And what all businesses have you started?
Well, the big business I started, not really a big business, but the major, the business I started was a bakery in Albuquerque, New Mexico in the 90s. I ran a bread and bagel shop in Albuquerque in the 90s. And that was a, 40-person, $1 million a year business that we ran as really in the 90s. I was by far the oldest person involved in that. I'm 50. I can't even do math. I was in my 30s. And, but everyone else was in the 90s. I had a whole bunch of punk rock teenagers running everything. And, it was fabulous. It was a great thing to do. It was really sort of a crazy time of all of our lives. Everyone involved that I'm still in touch with looks back at that like, did we do that? We were basically stoners, but we pulled it off. It was pretty good.
What I guess convinced you to do that, go out on a limb there instead of just go get a job somewhere?
Well, I think that ultimately when it gets down to it, I think the thing that most created the clearing or the space for me to be able to do that was my dad, both in being the chief, the main financial support of the business, the big stockholder, but also he had given up a career in sales. He was the vice president of sales for a clothing manufacturer when I was a kid. He had 4 kids, and he quit his job to go start his own business as a photographer. And that was always sort of, how people go into the family business, how people, have that, the family, the clearing in the family, the thing in the family that there was to do was, look, you can go start your own business. It was just always there. It was never a thought that you had to work for the man. You could, but you didn't have to. There was nothing there like working for the man is a more secure, better way to do it.
Right.
That was just never a space. So it was always there for me to be able to start my own business.
Yeah. And I kind of have a similar story where it actually wasn't my father, but I ended up working at a startup that it was just like 5 of us in an office. And then that kind of opened my eyes that like, hey, this isn't some mythical idea.
Right.
Like this is like a normal, like real thing people do.
Yeah. And in fact, in a lot of ways, it's way more secure than working for someone. I mean, I've had regular jobs. I've had jobs, where I was not the owner. And, I've been laid off and I've had companies move and various different things happen, been fired. And, that doesn't happen when you work for yourself, right. Better or worse. But, when you work for yourself, you eat what you kill. And if you want more food, then go hunt. And that's not really the case when you work for someone else. And so I think it's way more stable working for yourself. It's an illusion that it's less stable, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point because that's the kind of the accepted train of thought is like, well, if you want something secure, go work for, Fortune 500, whatever company, and you'll have a job for 40 years. But that's not really.
No, that's an illusion. That ship has sailed. That ship sailed to China, actually, a long time ago.
Hey guys, I want to take a quick second and thank our sponsor today, healthiq.com. HealthIQ is basically life insurance for active people. They are able to get lower rates because active people are at less risk of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. So if you're an active person and want to see if you can get a lower rate, head over to healthiq.com and mention promo code FFF if you could. All right, let's get back to the show. So, Shortchanged by Shortcuts. This is a book you've written recently about real estate. So, can you tell me, you're in real estate now, can you tell me, what motivated you to write this book?
Yeah, well, I got into real estate about 5 years ago, and, I write it in the introduction. My background, a lot of my background is in entrepreneurship, and it's also in education. And so I'm always looking for new solutions. It's just how I view things. And I think how you come about a problem defines the set of solutions that you're going to see. Your approach to the issue is going to creates the context in which the solution to the problem is going to occur. Which is why we have a phrase called outside the box, right? That's what that's referring to when you talk about someone who thinks outside the box. Their view of whatever issue they're looking at is outside of your view. It's outside the standard view or outside your whatever, however you want to put that. And so I came about real estate like, okay, I have this thing about educating people. I like illuminating that which people haven't seen before. And the thing about residential real estate for me was shocking to me was the complete disregard for due diligence that consumers use when they go about buying or selling their house. There's virtually the level of due diligence that a consumer uses, for example, to select a realtor is identical to the due diligence they use when they choose where to eat dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go out to eat dinner, Seth, you're likely to either go to Yelp right? You're going to look on a website for stars and reviews, or you're going to ask a friend, what do they recommend? Or you're going to go to the place that sent you the Valpak coupon, right? You're going to try a new place, right? But that's the level of due diligence that you choose to eat dinner. I'm going to go to that place I see all the time, whatever. It's not much due diligence there, right?
Yeah.
But when you go to choose a realtor, if you look, that's how you're going to do it. You're going to go look at stars on a website, or you're going to ask a friend for a recommendation, or you're going to go with a discount broker, or you're going to use that guy with a lot of signs. But either way, you're using the same methodology, which is nuts, because a dinner is $50 and you do it 100 times a year. Your house is $500,000 and you do it once every 10 years. Doesn't make any sense. But consumers don't know nobody thinks they're crazy, right? Literally in life, nobody thinks they're crazy, you know? But from the outside, that's a crazy thing to do. That's a crazy thing to do, to just go with a realtor because your friend recommended them, or because they're your kid's soccer coach, or because they offer a discount, or whatever. That's like nuts. But nobody knows what to do about that. No one has an answer for, well, how could we do it some other way, which is why they do it that way. And so I wrote the book because I thought, this is crazy. People need an answer. First of all, they need to know that they're doing that, which they don't know they're doing that. And then they need a better way to do it. So I wrote the book. Like, okay, here are all the ways you're crazy about real estate. When you buy and sell your house, here's a whole book of ways in which you are about to rip yourself off. And here's why you're doing that, and here's how else you could do it. And that's the entire thought of the book.
What's crazy is, I'm sitting here thinking to myself how I selected the realtor.
How'd you do it?
When I bought this house, and I can't quite remember, but I know it wasn't a good way. I think I found them on Zillow.
Yep.
When I was searching for a house, and then, it has good stars or whatever. And so we met him for coffee, and then that was it. And I was like, I like this person. Yep. And that's literally, I hate to admit that, but that's the truth.
There's nothing to hate about it. There's literally no option for you, and really, and the relationship to it is, listen, if the deal didn't go horribly awry, you think you got a good deal.
Right.
As long as it doesn't get messed up, right, it's fine. It's right, which is crazy because in any industry, there are people that perform above the average and there are people who perform below the average. In any industry. All realtors cannot possibly be the same. That's not possible. There's got to be high performers and low performers, but you just don't have any way to parse them. You don't have any way to separate them. So you're just going to go with a guy that, knows how to talk Falcons football and is nice to your kid and doesn't kick your dog and is there, and frankly, realtors are trained now. That's how consumers train realtors, that they don't have to be good at their job. The implication, the impact of all this is that realtors don't get training on how to be better at their job, which is to buy you a house for less or sell you a house for more or sell your house for more. They don't have to get good at that part because nobody's ever going to ask them about that part. They just have to get good at being fast and they have to get good at being friendly. They don't have to get good at their job. And they're not. They're not good at it.
Like you said, be friendly and maybe close the deal. And then I'm in a house, so I'm like, that worked out great. And then I don't think about it again.
And you're going to, if someone says, who'd you use or do you like your guy? And if you really do like them, you'll recommend them, and they'll get more business because they were friendly, and they didn't rip you off, and they didn't, nothing terrible happened.
Yeah,
but there's a big difference between nothing terrible happening and something extraordinary happening, and something, So anyway.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's funny how this 5 or 6 minute conversation can change how I think about realtors. Sorry, and. Interesting. And I'm looking at your book here, and it looks like you've even got kind of a template you could send to a real estate agent to feel them out, basically. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. If your listeners want that, they can just contact me. I'll send it to them. It's the 7 questions. It's really just 7 questions that you would send to the 5 or 6 realtors you want to interview. And it's a standard way. It's not the only questions you could ask, but there are questions in there that you wouldn't naturally ask. There's questions in there they're not organized to answer, which is a good thing, right? And you can then compare apples to apples. And then you get 2 or the 3 top performers out of the bunch, and then you interview them, and then you hire the guy you like. Then you hire the one that can talk Falcons football and is going to sell your house for the most. Right. There's no reason not to interview them. You certainly don't want to hire someone you don't like, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying don't hire your kid's soccer coach. You want to look. Social capital is real. If your brother-in-law is a realtor, and it's going to cost you peace at the family dinner table on Thanksgiving, then hire your brother-in-law, right? Just know what it's going to cost you to do so. Look, I'll give you an example. This is a real life, no kidding example. I have a person that was looking at a potential client of mine, and he's looking at selling his house. I was looking at helping him buy a house, and he was selling his house. And regardless, he wanted to know. He had 2 realtors he was choosing from. One was his neighbor, and one is his brother-in-law. And I said, great. Well, let me look up their past performance history, and I'll tell you which one of those 2 guys is you can see which one of those 2 guys is likely to perform for you. And his neighbor has sold like a dozen houses, and they're all in this guy's price point, and he's done so for a number of years. And his brother-in-law has sold no houses in his price point over the last couple of years, and in fact only sold 2 houses last year. Okay, well, you got to go with the guy next door, man. You can't go with your brother-in-law because your brother-in-law is not likely to get this done. I mean, it's just not likely to get it done. The evidence, the track record shows that he has no experience in this. This would be crazy to hire him. But he wouldn't know if he didn't ask.
Do you know which one they picked?
I don't yet. No, it's just this is real time happening. So I don't.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. What about people? This is kind of off topic, but on topic. What about people that list their house themselves or just don't use a realtor? Is that smart ever? Or it seems like I would be worried if I tried to sell my house on my own. I would miss some details and cost myself a lot of money. Basically, is what I would be worried about.
Yeah. Well, at the risk of the obvious partisanship that I have regarding that question, right? Okay. If you do the math, and I'm a big proponent of math. I know people, science is a whole thing now. Do you believe in science? Okay. Do you believe in math? Okay. Can you track the performance record of something? And so ever is too long of a period of time to answer the question. Is it ever a good idea? There are times if you're selling your house to your cousin and you go get an appraisal and you 2 guys align on a price, then for sure just go into an escrow and a tax attorney will save you thousands of dollars because you've already agreed on a price and and there's no trust issues and it's like that.
Gotcha.
Fine, just do that. But if you're trying to sell your house to the highest bidder and you want to get the most money for your house, I absolutely think the saying applies. The saying, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, go do it. Go see how much it costs when you hire an amateur. It definitely applies in real estate. I've not seen the evidence that says you can save money by doing it yourself. You're unlikely to get more money. For sale by owners, get less money, and just because the math of it doesn't work. I think it's way too granular to get into it on the podcast.
Right, I got you.
But I can tell you the math itself, what you're trying to save versus what you're going to earn and someone else is going to pay, just doesn't play out for sale by. I'll give you this one piece of evidence. Mm-hmm. The owner of the forsalebyowner.com website, I forget his name, but the guy that owns FSBO.com, when he sold his house, he used a realtor.
That's pretty funny.
Okay, so there you go. It's just not a viable solution doing it yourself.
Yeah, and you'd have a day job anyway.
It's silly. It's just silly. You're just not going to get it done. And people try it all the time. Good for them.
Yeah, my neighbor actually tried it for a few months and then ended up using a realtor after he wasn't able to sell the house.
All right. That's
To
right.
be honest. Well, great, Aaron. Where should we go to learn more about your book?
Yeah. You can go to rationalrealestate.pro.
Okay.
So rationalrealestate.pro, Rational Real Estate Professionals, rationalrealestate.pro. And that will get you can both get in touch with me, get a link to the book, and get a free download of those 7 questions. Or you can just go right to Amazon and search Shortchanged by Shortcuts. And that will get you the free download, but that'll get you to the book. And if people want to get a hold of me, or anyone has any questions about this, and this is, I'm in Seattle, so I'm not wherever you are in the country. I'm a neutral third party to discuss any of your real estate questions, and I'm happy to do that. And there may be realtors listening on want to talk about life-work balance, because that's a big thing too. Like I have 2 kids, and I got into real estate because I wanted the flexibility in the hours. So I'm happy to talk to them too about that. Anyway, it's Aaron at rationalrealestate.pro is my email.
And so my question, I have a question or follow-up to that. Is this life-work balance you desired when you went into real estate? Are you able to still achieve that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best. I love it. It's just a great solution.
I did see on your Facebook something about an article you posted that kids get double the time with their parents from 50 years ago or something, and you wrote yeah, I do. And so are you able to do that, spend a lot of time with your kids?
Oh, yeah, I definitely spend a lot of time with, mostly, we work it out, my wife and I, but, I don't miss wrestling matches, my son's wrestling matches, or my daughter's softball games. I don't miss. I just don't schedule appointments. Rarely. I do occasionally, but, as a rule, I don't. And I can work whatever 70 hours a week I want, which is the way I like it. And I parse those up to, get them to school, get them home from school, whatever.
Right.
I don't have any complaints about the amount of time I spend with my kids anymore.
That's awesome. Well, Aaron, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me and talk to us about some real estate and realtors. That's awesome.
Great, Seth. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you, and if I can ever do anything for you or any of your listeners, I'm happy to help.
All right, guys, that's a wrap with Aaron Hendon. I hope you enjoyed talking to him. I feel like he was really kind of giving us the inside scoop on real estate and picking a realtor, and so I'm sure his book has plenty more to offer. Thanks for being on the show, Aaron, and keep on spending time with those kids of yours. Again, I want to thank our sponsor, healthiq.com. This is health insurance for active, healthy people. If you're active and want to lower your rates, check them out at healthiq.com and mention promo code FFF. All right, guys, that's another one in the can. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to the Fatherhood Fitness Finance Podcast. You can find us at fatherhoodfitnessfinance.com.